Today we are talking twisted fringes. A twisted fringe is a really handy thing to be able to do, especially if you've got something like a scarf or a piece that you want to have a nice fringe on. It really adds like a professional finish to the fringe. It sort of allows you to level up in your weaving, I think. So the first thing to do, I'm going to be twisting the fringe on this scarf. I've already twisted the other end, but if I hadn't, the first thing to do would be to even up my fringe ends. And by that I mean, I want the length of my fringe on this side to be the same as the length on my other side. The easiest way for me to do that is to fold this scarf in half and lay it out like so. So you just have to imagine that this end, these fringes are not actually twisted yet. And lay them out so that your hems are touching. And then just tease it out with your fingers so that you can see the fringes all straight. Once you've done that, you need to trim your fringes so that they are the same length, because it's very unlikely when you've just removed something from the loom that this end of fringe is going to be the same length as the other end. So two ways you can do this. The easiest way is if you've got a rotary cutter and a self-healing mat, you can just whip along the edge there with your rotary cutter, but that's not essential. You can also do it with a good sharp pair of scissors. Just line them up and cut along so that they're even. So that's the first thing to do. All right, so I've got my scarf laid out on a flat surface, a big table, and I'm going to put a heavy book right about here. So the idea of the heavy book is you don't really want your scarf to move, because once we start twisting the fringe, we're going to be pulling on these bits, putting the fringe under a little bit of tension, and you want the whole scarf to stay put, or you're not going to be able to achieve that tension. Something else that's important before you begin, actually there are a couple of things that I wanted to mention. If you're going to twist your fringe, you need to allow for that when you're actually calculating your project. So when you're filling out your calculations sheet, you need to allow a certain length of fringe for being able to twist it. If you have a really short fringe, you're going to have a really hard time twisting. Also, you want to allow a little bit of extra length, because once you've actually twisted your fringe, everything's under tension and it kind of coils up a little bit. So this is going to end up a little bit shorter than it is right now. And if you would like a free calculations sheet, I will leave a link for you underneath this video. The other thing is that you do not want to wet finish your piece before you twist the fringe. You want to wet finish afterwards, and that will help to set the fringe and everything. So you'll notice that my scarf is curling up a little bit at the edges, and that's just because it hasn't been wet finished yet. All right, so to begin with, you've got your heavy book. You've got your item to be twisted with the fringe. I have to say that life is much easier since I bought this. It's a very good investment. I guess if you were really clever, you could make your own, because it is a kind of simple mechanism, but I'm just not that clever. But the basic idea is you've got some alligator clips, and they're going to clip onto the ends of the fringes, and then you've got your little turner that's going to actually twist up the fringes for you. This one is a Leclerc. It's very good. I'll link to that underneath if you are interested. Another thing that I didn't mention yet is that you need to have your ends secured before twisting the fringe. So my ends here are hem stitched. You might have them knotted, but you need to have them secured somehow, ready for twisting. Now, because I've hem stitched, actually hem stitching and fringe twisting go together really beautifully, because when you hem stitch, you have little even groups, little bunches of fringe, and that makes it really easy to divide up into how you're going to twist it. So for example, with this scarf, I have hem stitched 4 warp ends in each bunch. That makes it really easy for me to divide them. And you have options when you're fringe twisting. For example, I could take a bunch of 4 and a bunch of 4 and twist them together, but that's a little bit bulky for me. This is a kind of, lacy delicate design and I want the fringe to match that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a group of 4 and I'm going to divide it into 2 and I'm going to twist those 2 together. That gives me a more delicate fringe. So I grab the alligator clip that's on the far right because I'm starting on the right hand side, and I clip that onto the first 2, leaving a little bit of tail there to work with. And then I grab the other 2 in the bunch and clip as well. Now when you have clipped them, you want them to be under a similar tension. So it wouldn't be much good for me to say clip the first one at a certain tension and then clip the second one really loose like this, because they're not going to twist up under the same tension. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but a similar tension is good. Then I can move on to my next bunch of 4. So I've got my hem stitched bunch of 4. Of course your numbers may be totally different to mine, and that's fine. You just work with what you've got. And I've got my group of 2, another group of 2. So your fringe twister may be a little bit different to this. You can get twisters that just have the 2 clips, or you can get the 4. You may even be able to get more, I'm not actually sure, but 4 is pretty good. So holding them under tension, and I'm just going to move this up a little bit to make sure you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I've got them all under a similar tension, and I'm just going to start winding. I wind to the right, so clockwise. Now how much to actually twist them? You can see they start winding around each other. That's not a big deal. I just sort of separate them again like that. But I like to put quite a bit of twist into mine. I twist them until they seem pretty tight. Once again, this is a personal preference. You can actually do them with a looser twist if you want to. But you can see now that they're starting to kink up. So if I'm holding them under tension and then they're starting to kink up, then I know that I don't want to take it any further, because I don't want kinks in my twisted fringe. And I know that if they start kinking, then they've got a lot of twist in them. All right, so once I get to that stage, I'm going to start with the right hand one again, and I'm going to just grab that, hold on to the tail and take it off the clip. And then I'm going to grab the one directly next to it. So this is the second one of my bunch, my first bunch of 4. And then I can just drop that for a moment and not worry about it. And so I've got the 2 together. I'm holding on to them and I don't want to let go, because then I'm going to let go of all that twist. And what I do is just a simple knot at the end. So another thing to consider when you are doing fringe twisting is you want your knots to all be at a similar point. Remember how we trimmed the fringes to all the same length? Well, we want the knots to sit approximately at the same point as well. You don't have to be a perfectionist about this, but to have a lovely row of knots, you know, approximately running equal, looks very nice. So I'm going to do a simple overhand knot. And before I pull it tight, I'm just thinking about how much tail I actually want to leave underneath, and that's going to determine where my knots will sit. Okay, so I'm going to tighten up that knot, and when I let it go, I have my lovely twisted fringe. It's kind of like magic. It's very nice. So then I can do the next bunch the same way, taking them off the clips and holding them. I'm pulling them out straight. I don't want kinks. And I'm going to do a knot, leaving approximately the same amount of tail as I did with the first bunch. So tightening up that knot, letting it go, and there's my twisted fringe. So that's my first 2 bunches. I'm going to take my next bunch of 4 and dividing them into 2 again. So now that I've established that pattern of dividing each bunch of 4 into 2, I'm going to continue that all the way across because I want all of my twisted fringes to look the same. And also when you're dividing your bunches, you want to divide them evenly so that you don't have threads crossing up the top. Just so that it looks nice and even. Okay, that one's a little loose, I'll just tighten it up and then I start twisting again. This does take a little while at the end of a project. Some people really enjoy doing this at the end because it's just like a really nice way to finish off the project, and other people don't like it at all because they'd rather just be finished with the project. But it's really worth the time, and with a tool like this, it takes a lot less time. I know some people twist their fringes by hand, but that doesn't generally last very long because if you're doing a lot of twisted fringes, that's a lot of time taken on your fringes at the end of a project. Especially if you are making things to sell, a fringe twister is well worth the investment for you. All right, so, and even though they, once you let go of the twisted fringe, it coils up initially, you just pull it out and it straightens up. And also after you've wet finished, they will just sit really nicely. Okay, next bunch. I think we'll come in for a little bit of a closer look. All right, so dividing the next bunch of 4 into 2s. Starting at the right hand side and clipping on. Next bunch of 4. Dividing them in half. Clipping. All under similar tension, so I'm ready to start twisting. They're twisting up a little, that's okay. I'm also using wool here, so it tends to stick to itself a little bit more. Okay, taking off the first 2 from the clips and doing a simple overhand knot, making sure my knot's at a similar place as with the other ones I've already done. Next one. So I think you get the idea. I'm just going to keep going. If you have any questions about this, ask me in the comments section and I'll get back to you. Also, if you're interested in this scarf, this is my garden path scarf pattern. It's available in my Etsy shop, and I also have kits available in all different colors. This color is sea blue, but I have a lot of new colors and they'll be available very soon. I will link to them underneath as well. They make a great Christmas present. So with a kit you get enough yarn, and it's a beautiful Australian merino. You get enough yarn to make one scarf, and you get a paper printed pattern as well. Or otherwise, if you just want the pattern, you can buy that as a digital download in my Etsy shop. And I'll do my best to remember to put all these links that I've been talking about underneath the video. Also, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would really appreciate you doing that. If this video is helpful to you, I would love for you to like and leave a comment and share with other people. That's how I can keep all of this great stuff going. So I'm going to continue to twist my fringe. Make sure that if you need to, you can slow this video down. Listen to me talk really weird. You can also put closed captions on if you're having trouble hearing or understanding what I'm saying. And you can always go right back to the start of the video and play it as many times as you like. I hope this video was helpful to you, and I hope you have an amazing day. Till next time, happy weaving!